It's a strange deal how we got it, but we were in the middle of cars. We didn't have a car, and we were renting a car here in Boulder. And we were desperate to find a car. I don't know what happened to our car, but we were renting
you
a car.
took it to St. Louis and it died in St. Louis.
Anyway, so now we're looking for a car everywhere we go. The newspaper, trying to find a little car to buy. And finally, there was an ad in a little tiny. It could have been the Denver Post. I don't know. And so we go over there, and here's this little 78, 74, little Nova. And little Novas are cute. And it had a little damage on the right front fender, a little bit. And the dad was a minister who was selling it. And he says, I bought this for my son. And then my son goes out and has a few drinks or whatever with his pals, and he hits something with the car. He says, I'm selling it. My son doesn't want me to, but I'm selling it. I'm going to teach him a lesson. And we bought that little car for like, how much was it? Maybe 1,100, 800, 900, something like that. It was not much, not a whole lot. And it was a perfect running little car. And I drove that car for a couple of years. And in Arizona, when we were living there in Tucson, it didn't have air conditioning. And I'm out and about one day, and it was really hot. And then I pulled up to our little house, and I walked in the door. I walked down. There was a hallway there was an overhead water evaporator.
Yeah.
There was a hallway there. I'm walking, and the next thing I know, I'm coming to. I had fainted.
Scary.
And I fell flat on my face.
Dang.
On your face?
Yeah, I just, bam.
That's so scary.
Passed out, Nanny?
Did you get hurt on the face?
Not that I remember, but it was just so weird to wake up and Mom said, well, you fainted. That you were walking down, and
I
what
don't think
happened
so.
I was superheated, and I walked into this cool house and yeah,
Spooky.
I wish
The other day when I got COVID, the other day, it was the other day, it hit me like a truck. My head started hurting, all my body was aching, all I could do was fall on my bed.
That's scary
I think
too.
That first day or two, we were both knocked out. Just laying there, we couldn't do a whole lot.
I'm glad you guys weren't sicker.
I know.
Scary.
It's because we had the vaccinations.
Good thing.
Yeah, good job, Joel.
Do you normally, when you first hear the message like this, my cousin has passed away yesterday, do I pick up the phone and call his wife, Sandy, the same day that I hear this, or do I wait until
Maybe tomorrow.
and then
Or-
call her?
Why, you weren't like super duper close with her, were you?
Not with Sandy, but that was his wife.
But it was his best
Have
cousin.
a mask set. Have a mask set, and it'll give you a pretty card, and send that right away. And
But I think, isn't it, you're supposed to pick up a phone and talk to them, aren't you?
Maybe in like a day or two.
yeah, not right away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Not right.
That's a toughie.
I wonder what
When
he died.
one of your cousins that you've known your whole life, when they pass away.
Oh, that's like when I lost Tarianne, my favorite cousin. She died.
That's sad. She was young, huh?
And she was young.
She was like 18?
No, I was like, we were in our early 20s.
Both of you?
Mhm.
That's so sad. Was she your bestie?
Yeah, she was so sweet. And she couldn't drive because she had epilepsy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would pick her up and we would go get ice cream. And she was real sweet.
It just
That's
came
so
to me,
sad.
Larry, my cousin, when I was 16 or 17, probably 17, he was with me. He came out to Arnold, his family did, and he and we walked somewhere from there. We walked, and I don't know what we were doing, but we walked up the road and maybe up to the store. Probably it's the only two things. There were two stores up there. Maybe we went up to get a Coke or something. And then when we walked back, here was this little 48 Chevy coupe in the driveway. Well, my dad was always bringing home cars because he worked at a dealership.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he'd bring a new car home or an almost new car. And that was a given, that he would drive cars from his dealership home. And not always, but let's say once or twice a week, he'd drive one of those cars. Maybe he was supposed to take it out for a test run. Well, he'd just go home with it and bring it back the next morning. Here's this little
That's
48 coupe. And Larry and we walked up to it. I says, look at that. Look, that's a cute little coupe. Dad must have brought that thing home from work. And so we go inside and into the kitchen, and they were sitting in the kitchen. Lawrence and Greta and Dad, Mom and Dad. And they're sitting talking around the table. They like to play cards. That's what they would do. The old people would play cards. That's what they did in the Great Depression. They didn't have any money to go places. So they
played
learned how to play
cards.
cards and enjoy one another's company and talk. And I asked Dad, I said, that's a cool little Chevy out there, and what's the story on that one? Because he'd usually say he was doing this or doing that. And then he looked at me and he got up and he pulled the keys out and he said, here.
Aw,
And I
that's
said, well, what do you mean,
nice.
here? And he says, it's yours. What? He says, it's yours. And I was floored. I was like, oh my God. And he said, but it's not leaving the driveway until you get insurance.
Mm.
Okay. And he says, it cost me, I forget, it was $150 or $250. Probably $150 or $160. Because that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, that's like
Back then it was.
back then
Today
a
it's
lot.
nothing. But back then, 100, that would have been about
Like,
$1,500 today.
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and he says, but you got to pay me back. Oh, yes, yes, sir, of course. And I paid him back rather quickly because I had just gotten a job at the shipyards, the St. Louis shipyards. It was summertime. And I was $50-$60 a week, and it was pretty decent.
That's good for then.
Yeah, and I paid it off. I paid it back real quickly, and I had
Nice.
cool.
That's well.
Swell.
I
Swell.
still have a photograph of it, a partial photograph of it. Anyway, Larry was with me that afternoon when we came back.
Mm.
Something.
Poor
And they
Larry.
both went to the same high school. He
Mm-hmm.
was just a year behind me. I was a
What did
senior. He
Larry
was a
do
junior.
in his profession?
He was an electrician. Yeah, and a good one. Yeah, that's how he made his living. And he was the one, Larry. He's working in this government building again, wiring it for the government. And one of the guys close, another electrician nearby, a couple of feet away, where he lived out in White City, which was out not too far from where my grandparents used to have a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry said, well, I know about Wright City. My grandfather had a farm out there in Forestell. which is a little tiny town there. And then
Forestell.
the guy, the other electrician said, "Oh yeah, I know Forestell real well." He says,
You like Forest.
"He lives out in that area." And then Larry said, "Do you know Earl Requat?"
Earl.
That was the neighbor,
He's
the
in the
next
fake
door neighbor to my grandparents. And Earl was my boyhood buddy.
Yeah, Earl was your
And they
bestie.
started talking about Earl, and Larry was saying, "Yeah, I know Earl," and the guy said, "Well, you've heard about Requat, haven't you?" And Larry said, "What do you know? What do you mean?" And the guy said, "Well, he's the Grand Kleagle of the KKK."
He really is Earl?
Yeah.
Grand Kleagle.
What does that even mean?
And
What's a
A
Kleagle?
Grand
that's
Kleagle.
you know, something like a governor or something of that organization
Oh.
out there.
Earl,
And-
your
and Larry was
bestie?
dumbfounded. He said, "I never heard of such a thing." The guy says, "Yeah, he's some big dragon, the Ku Klux dragon, the Kleagle for the KKK." Oh, I had the same thing happen to me earlier.
And I wasn't here.
Scary.
Boy,
Were they
was I,
freaked?
coughing and trying to catch my breath. I couldn't hardly catch my breath.
So
Scary.
Yeah, it was. Anyway,